Specifically, I want to talk about public trust. And we know that public trust has lack of public trust in our public institutions amongst Canadians have been increasing throughout the years. And it's also correlated with the implementation of liberal top-down policies over the years, and it's no wonder it's also gone worse. And I think I read a report the other day that it's an all-time high in 2025. The lack of public trust in our institutions is an all-time high amongst Canadians. So I just want you to expand on that generally, or specifically about in the settings of universities and colleges and the granting of federal funding.
Thanks. I should say, like a lot of my colleagues who are being witnesses before you today, I want to live in a world where there's a high public trust in higher education and universities and to allow us to do our work. But I think we all know that public trust is eroding in a series of institutions from media to various claims of expertise. And the point of the testimony that I'm offering to you today is that while I don't want there to be a lack of public trust, I can sympathize and see why there is a lack of public trust, especially in the population of, say, 41% of the population who voted for the Conservative Party in the last election. As they listen to experts who show up in the Globe and Mail or the CBC or wherever tell them that there's a consensus on topic X or topic Y, pick your topic, what they can know is that the expertise is just not made up of a diverse array of people that represents their viewpoints. So just like a group of African Canadians might be skeptical of a group of experts who are only white who are telling them what the truth is on a certain topic, I think it'd be crazy to think that the same would not also be true for these kinds of things. And obviously, we're living in a moment of a crisis of institutions more generally. On this problem, I think there are solutions that we can and should achieve.
And you think that lack of public trust is caused by a lack of viewpoints? Because you're like you said, when you have these so-called pundits that are so-called reflective of Canadians' viewpoints of a wide variety of spectrum, but they're not reflected, and Canadians feel like their viewpoints aren't represented in the public because of these biased panels that have a certain political skew. That's the term you used. What's the effect of that? Does that create more polarization amongst Canadians and also amongst our academic researchers as well? Does it also have an effect of radicalizing Canadians?
I think both things are true. I think it is clearly is a contributing factor toward polarization. I think others would agree with that. And if you don't trust experts, if you don't trust the institutions that are supposed to be objective and if not neutral, at least diverse, to have a kind of rigorously go through material to tell you what is true, I think that's going to lead to polarization. It's going to lead to people to look for alternative viewpoints, some of which may be credible and many which will not be credible. So I think higher education institutions have a duty, I would say, to really deal with this problem head on, see it as a major concern. And if I could just take 1 second to say, another witness mentioned that, in say business schools or engineering schools, the implication I think that this wasn't a problem. Our survey specifically looked at that, and I would say we expected that to be the case, but what we found is that it was not a significant difference. That the political skewed universities might vary slightly depending on the discipline, but it is, as I said, 88% of a representative sample of professors from across the country identify as on the left.
Yeah, and that's a lack of viewpoint diversity, and it's really troubling because the point of EDI, the D stands for diversity, and you would expect a diversity of viewpoints to come into things like business and social science, and where a diversity of viewpoints may enhance the research because you may catch things that you may not be able to catch were it not for the diversity of viewpoints. So it seems quite hypocritical and quite ironic, to be fair. And do you think that these DEI policies are potentially exclusionary and because of all the quotas that they're setting and create some kind of censorship, self-censorship and suppression of opposing views? Do you think it has that kind of effect?
I think in practice it does. I don't think it's intended to do that. I want to emphasize, I don't think the policies are intended to do that. But in practice, what happens, as I was saying in my testimony, is that it embeds a certain version of EDI in the criteria. so that scholars know that if they believe in a kind of colorblind approach to dealing with discrimination, that, just like an orchestra, you would put people behind a barrier, they would, play their instrument, and people would acknowledge them for the skill they have.